Good morning, everyone. Lots going on as usual. Today's Sunday, August 3rd, 2025, and it's the August long weekend, so I hope you're having a good long weekend. Lucy Connolly in the United Kingdom will be let out of prison early, and she's being invited to the House of Lords for a debate, and that'll be interesting to see. So I'm glad to hear that there's movement on that. And we're going to talk a lot about England today because I think a lot of what's going on in England is analogous to what's going on in Canada. There's a lot of similarities, and I want to highlight what's going on there because I think it's also happening here. Free speech and the plan to remove it starting in the United States. So we've got some Mike Benz stuff, and he breaks down what they're doing to justify targeting domestic citizens who disagree with the government's policy as terrorists. And I think that it's dangerous, and again, analogous to what's going on in Canada right now. Trump's recess appointments have been blocked, so there's more, it's kind of House of Cardsy. Right? When you watch what's going on in the Trump administration, there are people who are trying to get factions to block Trump's moves and so on and so forth. So I find politics at all of these levels very, very interesting. And so I like to watch them. No trade deal yet. And does Canada still honestly think it can win a trade war against the United States? Well, Mel Jolie thinks so, or she does in the interview I'm showing you. Hopefully this video will work today. But again, it's going back in time and talking about the trade war and using all of our leverage. And I think fundamentally at core, poking our biggest trading partner in the eye after we've got the USMCA done, basically. So there's a lot of the Canadian economy that's still relying on US trade. So it would be a bad idea to really ruffle some feathers. And that just seems exactly like what we're doing. It seems like we are ruffling feathers, and that's bad because that could lead to really bad outcomes. And I hope not, but it is what it is, right? And is the lack of a trade deal, because that's what Carney campaigned on. I can get us a deal. I can get us the best deal. Poilievre can't get us a deal. A good deal is better than no deal, blah, 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 all sorts of nonsense rhetoric. And ultimately he failed. Carney totally failed, fell flat on his face, absolutely failed. All of his experience, all of his supposed smarts, all of his got nothing, absolutely nothing. So we're losing out. So there's lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, trade. Here's Mel Jolie and talking about Trump and what Canada's doing. I don't have the Trump whisperer comment again, but here's Mel Jolie talking about all of that. And Ryan says, this is Jolie back in April claiming Canada is leading the charge against Trump's tariffs, yet no other country other than China followed. So yeah, we're streaking, guys. And it just ends up like me running naked down the street and people going, what is that guy doing? I don't know. Leave him alone, right? So we're the idiots, and China is doing it too, but maybe we're doing it because we got told to. Maybe. Who knows? I have no idea because we're not allowed to see any kind of evidence after the CSIS leaks. Shucks darn, right? She says the American people will force Donald Trump to end the tariffs. That's wrong. She says the government ran an ad campaign in 12 red states to get Americans on board. This is the level of arrogance and incompetence of the individuals we have running our country. All of this backfired and only made the situation worse. Again, this is back in time. This is in April, but just a reminder of where we've been for the incompetence of what's coming, right? Here's a preview of the incompetence coming. Here we go.
Towards what's happening now. Now, I think we have to retaliate. We need to defend ourselves. And so not only are we leading the charge, we're the country at this point that has imposed counter tariffs the most against U.S. goods. We're working with the EU. I had just a conversation with the EU Trade Commissioner, Sefcovic. We're working also with Asian partners, and we'll continue to put maximum pressure.
There you go. So maximum pressure, which yielded nothing but Trump's scorn, really, and him slapping us around now. Tim Houston, the Premier of Nova Scotia, I believe, Premier of Nova Scotia, nailed it, says, as much as we all hoped Canada could reach a trade deal with the United States by August 1st, we knew it would be incredibly difficult. That's not the messaging Canada got, I'll tell you what. Today we are learning that we still have more work to do. Well, fundamentally, Canada didn't work in good faith to end the fentanyl. Canada didn't work in good faith at all on any of the requests that Donald Trump had, least of all supply management. In fact, the first thing Carney did was pass a bill with everybody involved, Mr. Poilievre, Andrew Scheer, everybody involved. I guess Poilievre's not elected right now, so he didn't really have anything to do with it. Remember milk drinking Andrew Scheer? Everybody like that was like, yeah, we have to protect supply management from that evil orange Mr. Trump. And now that's coming back to blow up in our faces because we didn't do anything meaningful to work in good faith with the United States And it was obvious. I could see it from my garage, so Mr. Trump could see it, right? And so, hello, this is not a surprise. It would have not been difficult had Canada been working in good faith, but we're not working in good faith, and that's terrible because it's stupid. We're behaving in a stupid way, and our citizens are suffering because of our leaders' stupidity. Back to this. We never wanted to be in this position. You could have fooled me, Tim. No one wanted tariffs. This has been a long and difficult road. I want to thank the federal government, Prime Minister Carney and his team, who have been working tirelessly on this file to no fruition at all, to no result. I know you've carefully considered the concerns the premiers have raised. Our government will continue its part to support our province and the rest of Canada. Make no mistake, at the provincial level, we will not hesitate to implement retaliatory measures again if they are needed. For now, we're focusing on what we can control, like building our economy, becoming more self-reliant, seizing the opportunities that are before us, diversifying to new... Canada is taxed very high. You can't sell at volume to ourselves because we don't have the buying power to buy at volume from ourselves. We don't, the market's not there. We have success. Businesses in Canada have success selling into the United States because the United States is a huge market, and even a small piece of that pie can make your whole business, right? But if you get that market cut off, no more business, right? And so, like, it's insane. The opportunities in front of us for selling to us. What do you want to sell to us? How many boats do you think you could make and sell in Canada, right? Like, especially with the taxes as high as they are, et cetera, and the government wanting more because it's never enough. It's never enough. So opportunities in front of us, right? Diversifying to new trade markets like Europe, removing internal trade barriers, but not supply management, supporting local Nova Scotians and Canadian businesses, and looking out for the best interests of Nova Scotians. I will always look out for our best interests, or for the best interests of Nova Scotians. We remain hopeful a deal can be reached. I'm doubtful a deal will not include tariffs. If you look around the world, a deal is heavy investment in the United States and still 10 to 15% tariffs. So this is it, guys. This is it. Freedom Fighter says, I don't have a bachelor's or a master's or a doctorate degree in economics, but I can tell you, suppressing natural resources, forcing eco mandates, allowing 1 to 2 million immigrants, migrants, refugees, whatever, per year, and saying F you to the largest trading partner and military protector is a bad effing idea. Okay? It's a bad idea. And I don't need any of these degrees to agree with this guy. This is a guy named Freedom Fighter. And I don't know, he's just a regular dude, right? But holy cow, did he nail it? Yeah, exactly. All of what we're doing is very clearly the wrong direction. And anybody with any kind of sense can see that. Obviously, Mark Carney doesn't have any kind of sense. Ryan says 35% tariffs, budget delayed, job cuts, Palestine recognized. None of this was on the ballot. 12 weeks in, Mark Carney's resume isn't the problem. His honesty is. I said during my show every single day, Mark Carney's lying again. He's lying again. He's lying again. He lied every day of the campaign, and nobody ever called him out on it. And now they're surprised? Oh my gosh, he's got an honesty problem? Oh, I'm shocked. I'm shocked, everybody. Greg says, not a single major policy decision from Mark Carney. This was from a few days ago. Delaying a federal budget for 5 months, chopping public health service jobs galore, not matching tariffs with the United States dollar for dollar as promised, not revealing 97% of his financial wealth is in U.S. companies and stocks, and proclaiming statehood for Palestine. Not one of those was something that he said he'd do when running for prime minister. It's the most deceptive campaign in our nation's history, and it's only been 12 weeks. Yeah, so people, and here's somebody calling for Mark Carney's resignation. Gov.exe says Mark Carney's entire election campaign was based on him getting a trade deal with the United States. That's what the elbows up crowd voted for. He had one objective, and he failed Canada. It's time for him to go. So let me just quickly explain this. The elections are rigged, and the media's job is to sell that rigged election to us with a story we'll believe. And the story was boomers believed that Mark Carney would get us a deal where Pierre Poilievre would fail in getting us a deal. And now that that story is completely collapsed, they'll sell us another story, and they won't respect our intelligence at all. They'll just tell us another story that they feel is plausible enough, and whatever, Canadians won't do anything about it anyway. And they might be right, unfortunately. Let's talk about free speech and who is allowed to have free speech, who is under police surveillance and who's not. And this is going to go into the UK and then talking about the invasion. This is all... this free speech and the UK thing was all one tab, like was all just under free speech, but it felt too muddy to me. And the invasion stuff really plays into the free speech stuff because they're using the invasion to destabilize the society. While the society destabilizes, people notice, and then they start speaking out about it. And then they're using the fear of the alt-right to crack down on that. They need a boogeyman to drive the fear to justify the censorship. And so invasion, alt-right, and it all kind of plays in together. And it kind of mixed up this way today. But I find it really interesting how these are all integral pieces of a whole production. Without one, the other doesn't work. And so they use these things to bring in these circumstances that they can point to and shake the proverbial glass jar that us black ants and red ants are in. And so we fight, and we don't go after the guy shaking the jar, right? And so I find it very interesting. All of this is being done on purpose. All of the selective surveillance, all of the crackdowns and on Christian speech, the burning of Christian churches, the targeting of Western society, Western families, Western capitalism, all of that stuff is not by accident. It's not kids realizing, oh my gosh, capitalism has sold us out. It's a story to distract from who actually sold us out, because who actually sold us out are running our government, unfortunately. Sean says, and this is the rock preacher at the center of all of the cancellations and the shows across Canada that we've been talking about for the last week or so. And Sean says, just finished a call with lawyers across different provinces in Canada. Although I'm not the lawsuit type, there comes a point where fighting back sets a precedent that this will never happen again. And thankfully to the anti-Christ media, we got all receipts. Stay tuned. So there's going to be a legal response, and that's good news, I think. It's interesting to watch what's going on, and very, very concerning. Here's Samadoun, and while people are saying there's safety concerns with a Christian rock preacher, is he a preacher, a pastor? I don't know, whatever. This guy going around and singing songs about Jesus, that's a very hard, very big safety concern. But this terrorist organization, this Canada declared terrorist organization, government included on the list terrorist organization, can get together in the park and no police will bother them whatsoever. Masha says, the Samadoun rally yesterday praised terrorist leaders and murderers and glorified martyrdom in the center of Vancouver by a children's playground. Not a single journalist. Where are you, CBC, Global News, CTV News? Also, no police. So there are police who follow freedom convoys. There are police who do all sorts of surveillance on people like Lucy Connolly. And in the United Kingdom, they're trying to criminalize posts on Facebook while making legal rape gangs, right? Like it's absolutely bonkers, but this is where we're at. So Masha continues, glory to the resistance, said every speaker. Hey, these people, how much longer will you allow designated terrorist organizations to operate and incite hate and violence in our province? And glory to martyrs, said every speaker, the martyrs, and then it highlights who the martyrs are, and they're Islamic martyrs. Samadoun director David D gave a speech. He told the heartbreaking story of the PFLP terrorist Walid D, who kidnapped, brutally tortured, and murdered an 18-year-old Israeli soldier. These stories, this is okay with absolutely no reporting nationwide whatsoever, and yet Christian preachers have their venues canceled, and we can't allow this. No permit. There's no permit. Isn't that interesting, right? So it seems there's a double standard. And if that's not obvious, well, I mean, they're not trying to hide it. It's right. It's clear out in the open. Here is the German Chancellor, Olaf Scholz, and he's talking about Elon Musk. And the other day, a few days ago, I was making the comparison saying it's completely legal to go swimming. But if you go swimming, we're going to arrest you, right? And so this guy's saying you can say whatever you want, but if you say things that align with the alt-right, that's illegal, and we're gonna crack down on that. And it's such a contradiction. It's a direct contradiction. It doesn't make any sense. You can't say that in the same sentence. He believes that he's making a distinction, but there is no distinction. Here we go. Oops.
The question of the dealing of Elon Musk, I had a lot of things to comment in the past because he was discussing a lot about Europe. And just to repeat what I already said, we have the freedom of speech in Europe and in Germany. Everyone can say what he wants, even if he is a billionaire. And what we do not accept is if this is supporting extreme right positions. And that is what I would like to repeat again.
Everything before the but doesn't matter, right? You can say anything you want, but if you say anything anything supporting extreme right positions, then you can't say that. Oh, so I can't say anything I want. Well, I just said you can say anything you want, but you also said that if I say anything supporting alt-right positions, that's not okay, right? Contradiction, complete and utter contradiction. It's insane. So they want you to be gaslit into thinking you have free speech, but that free speech, well, we can come and arrest you for that. That's not free speech then. That's the opposite of free speech. It's very censored speech. They need a boogeyman. The alt-right is the boogeyman. Fear is driving censorship. The fear is necessary to drive the censorship. The alt-right is going to do something awful to you. Oh my gosh, it's going to be terrible. They're going to steal all your stuff or something like that. Here we go. They're going to make you work for your stuff. Oh my gosh, those awful alt-right people. Here we go.
It is a quick and easy way to do politics. Incite fear.
Our health system will be inundated, and tens of thousands of New Zealanders will die.
It's the oldest trick in the book, but it is the most harmful and the most damaging.
New Zealanders will die.
Fear goes hand in hand with censorship, because to back up censorship, you have to make people frightened.
Incite fear.
Tens of thousands.
Because what that does, it provides an access to people's unconscious processes, and that helps people to start behaving without actually thinking. And that is the whole premise of behavioral science.
It is a quick and easy way to do politics.
Fear. And so I just think it's interesting, the practical application of these things. Here's Mike Benz talking about how this is a 17-minute thing, and it's the critical infrastructure hoax and how it permanently altered the course of American history. And this is a long thread, but here's the kind of overarching 30-second short version of this. I'm not going to go through the whole thread. I think you'll understand with just this little version. This is Mike Benz from Joe Rogan.
That's really how they pulled this off. Nobody thought in 2019 that the cybersecurity agency in DHS would be the Ministry of Truth. They didn't appreciate the layers of censor speak that were constructed on top of that to say that, well, DHS governs critical infrastructure. And elections are critical infrastructure. Public health is critical infrastructure. Misinformation online is a cyber component. So it's a cyber attack on critical infrastructure. And so normally policymakers or people in the public think, oh, cybersecurity, that's hacking, that's phishing, that's for CIA, NSA people to stop Russians from hacking us. And they think critical infrastructure, they think things like dams or subsea cables or low Earth satellites. They don't think it means you sitting on the toilet at 9:30 p.m. on a Thursday saying, I don't know that I love mail-in ballots, and then suddenly you're being flagged by DHS as a cyber threat actor for attacking the U.S. critical infrastructure of confidence in our elections. But that's how they scaled these definitions into this giant mission creep, and now it's metastasized into the entire U.S. federal government. That's real.
Right, and so people did not understand how it was justified, but now that it's everywhere, it's inescapable. And one of the things that I've been telling you for a long time, and I thought Polyev was going to do it, turns out Trump's doing it, with Pam Bondi leading the way, is they're going to use anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, these excuses to shut down free speech as for your safety, comrade. In order for everybody to feel safe, you can't say these anti-Semitic things. You can't say these Islamophobic things. And then that opens the door. And once the door is open, as we've seen in Canada, you just jam that whole thing wide open and say, well, you can't say that for this reason, and that for this reason, and that for this reason. Free speech is free speech, particularly speech you don't like. That's the point. In fact, the more you dislike people saying it, the more it needs to be free, honestly. The quartering is highlighting Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi says, thank you, President McCullough, or whoever this is, Press McCullough. Who's this? I don't know who this is. Florida State President McCullough, for your leadership and prompt action. Anti-Semitism will not be tolerated in Florida or anywhere else. These people and my U.S. Attorney Jack Baba are investigating this. So here's some obscure anti-Semitic thing that happened, and Pam Bondi's on it. right? Like, boom. And Quartering says, Pam Bondi just issued a federal level response to a Jewish kid getting shoved. We don't even know the details of the incident. Reminds me of the hijab hoax, right? 55 Americans are murdered every single day. 18 veterans a day, every single day, take their own lives in this country. 0 Epstein files released. So, hey, Pam Bondi, we don't need a reason for your cracking down on hate with anti-Semitism examples here. Do your job. Do your damn job, right? Like that's the communication here, in my opinion. Here is Matt, and he says, our American friends are watching, and what's going on in Canada is concerning, and it is absolutely against free speech, and it is absolutely against our basic rights to let the government know what we like and what we don't like. New York Post says, oh, Canada's hypocrisy. Freedom Convoy protesters face ludicrous prison sentences for mere mischief. And Matt says, our American friends are watching prison sentences for protest or freedom of assembly and expression. Which way, Canada? They're going to put people in jail, man. That's the whole point. They want people in jail. Here's JD Vance, and he's talking about Europe is destroying itself. The threat to Europe is not Russia, but Europe itself, which has lost its fundamental values. I agree. Here we go.
But while the Trump administration is very concerned with European security and believes that we can come to a reasonable settlement between Russia and Ukraine, and we also believe that it's important in the coming years for Europe to step up in a big way to provide for its own defense, the threat that I worry the most about vis-a-vis Europe is not Russia, it's not China, it's not any other external actor. And what I worry about is the threat from within, the retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values shared with the United States of America.
So they're abandoning their fundamental values, and it is concerning, really, really concerning. Okay, we've got to end the stream soon, but I want to get through a little bit of this UK stuff. Keir Starmer is talking about the small boats and using that as an excuse to crack down on free speech on the internet in England. He's responding to the Home Office. Home Office says, under new laws, it will be a criminal offense to promote small boat crossings on social media. That includes migrants paid by smuggling gangs to film their journey and encourage others to join them. And Keir Starmer says, for too long, criminal people smuggling gangs have got away with using social media to sell the false promise of safe passage to the UK. I'm putting an end to it. And you could use those videos to identify these people, arrest them, deport them, because they're a part of a human trafficking ring. You don't need to create laws that make it illegal for them to post these stories online. Please post your stories online. We're going to arrest every single one of you. You could also, and somebody says, how about you stop putting them in 5-star luxury hotels instead? Are you deliberately retarded? And so this is the point. What the politicians do is they do something that moves their agenda forward. And the agenda being moved forward is the censorship agenda, while completely ignoring the problem at hand, but claiming to solve the problem at hand. We've got to stop these small boats. We've got to stop these invasions. What we're going to do is we're going to stop these people from filming and putting those films up on the internet. You're welcome. Censorship is here. No, that's not the solution. These people are lying to us, trying to placate us into thinking they're working for us, and they definitely don't. They definitely work for somebody else. WEF, Communist China, I have no idea. But somebody, not us, that's for sure. And not the citizens of the United Kingdom, and not the Western citizens who don't want their birthright to be handed over to somebody else just because of a couple of decades of bad governance. Wow. Grummas says, how the heck is the NVIDIA app classified as an adult? You know what this would drive me to? I would be putting together my own Linux computer again. Like I would just not play this game. Like I'm just going to code it, guys. Like the NVIDIA app is off limits. Okay, sure. Mr. Obvious says Zoomers cannot adjust their NVIDIA graphics card settings on their gaming PCs anymore because they aren't 18 thanks to the Online Safety Act. Wild. Absolutely wild. Luke says, I wonder if it's Palantir disclosed TVs reporting the UK government's disinformation